Hey everybody, Merc here. Welcome to the Wardroom. We have an absolutely colossal amount of content that we're going to have to get through today. We are covering games 8 through 16. We're not going to dive right into it to start off with because I want to give some time for anybody who wants to join the stream to see the ping in the Discords and then join us up. But I do see some people already in the chat, so how you doing all? I will be keeping my eye on the chat as much as possible. I do tend to get into a bit of a flow with this stuff, but I will be trying to turn my attention over to you guys. So if you have any questions or comments, um, you know, please feel free to leave them there. I will check them out. But hello to Eggs. We're gonna just skip over that green one. Let's say Tink, Bobby, and all others. So everybody sound okay. I'm coming through clearly. That's great, guys. All right, so we'll start. I think we should start by looking at the league standings, and I'll talk about that a little bit. So if we can throw those up, and so let's take a look as they stand now. Leviathan's on top of the 5-0, 81,000 points. I mean, I'm just going to give my candid takes on all these positions. Obviously, Leviathans are looking like a pretty strong number one team, if I do say so myself. Though I have to say I haven't had too much to do with it lately. It's been Atticus and Safe who have been really just knocking these commands out of the park. With the Krakens, 4-1. Also, again, they're looking really, really strong. Like they're going to be making it to the top three, in the top three bracket for the top bracket finals. And then we have the fight for third place, which has all of a sudden really opened up into something very, very in contention. The SCP-38 is still holding on, but one wrong move from the one wrong move. Sorry, I'm getting apparently my computer's ad block on. So the SCP are holding on to third place. One wrong move from the SCPs, and it could be a different person in that third spot, which is very exciting for the teams on the bottom half of the league. There will be a lower bracket finals, which will be very exciting. But you obviously these teams are trying to break into the upper bracket. They want to be able to come into next season 2 officially, because this is season 1. I know a lot of people confuse it. First season technically that we ever had was the preseason. This is season 1, and then we'll be in season 2 next year, which will have hopefully some colossal changes. We have a lot to talk about behind the scenes amongst us organizers there, but there are things on the plate for next season that are going to shake the league up, even if only some of the things that we think may happen next season to happen. It will still be shaken up quite a bit. I'll tell you some of the things that I'm thinking about now, and I want you all to promise me that you will not hold me to any of those things. These are ideas. I am a person who does not decide on a thing until it is like the final second for me to make the decision, and I keep a lot of balls just kind of in the air before I make those calls. And I'm always open to being convinced by cogent arguments from other organizers who will argue with me. Yeah, okay, thanks, Ronnie. I appreciate that you're gonna hold me to every word. It's great. One of the things that we're thinking for next season is the idea of allowing the teams that are on the lower half of the bracket to have a few extra options when it comes to how these battles are set up. So, for example, maybe teams that are on the lower bracket, when they're fighting teams that are on the upper bracket, they may be able to re-roll a wind that's not in their favor and have a second option. There's the opportunity maybe that if you're a certain amount lower than another team, maybe you might be able to pick the map, for example, right? So what we want to do is we want to give teams that struggle to defeat the higher ranked teams, we want to give them more options to control the battle to be in their favor. And we're hoping that maybe options like that, and again, it's sort of like if you're in that lower half of the bracket, you'll have access to these things. And then if you pop up in the top 3, you kind of lose access to these things. And then or maybe it'll just be if a team is lower in rank than the team they're fighting, they get more minor versions of these. So maybe the wind will be something that you'll just get to reroll if you're the lower team. But having the option to change maps might be something that you only get if you're at the bottom half of the league standing. So, there's, this answer your question, Eggs. This would all be for next season. So we're not going to be changing any rules, until this season is fully over and there is a champion of the upper bracket and a champion of the lower bracket. It will not. We're not going to change the rules mid-season. I don't like doing that. I don't think it builds any trust in the league. So we're not going to do that. But anyway, going back to this. So hold on. Let me see if I can get this off because this is just so ugly on my screen. Anyway, yeah. Oh, that's nice. That's a good idea, Eggs. So anyway, I won't get too much deeper into the league standings here. You can see where they all are, where these teams are. I think the spot for like 3rd to 4th place is really, really, really heating up. And I think we're going to see a lot of contention for that 3rd spot. And the SCP have a humongous job to do to just, smack down anybody who's going to try and climb up those league standings. That said, I think we probably have about as many people as we are going to get for at least right now. So why don't we get into the first of our battles here? This is game 8, the Krakens versus the RBF, which I have on my screen here, which I will blow up. All right, so we have a battle. We have the Krakens on the left here. We have the RBF on the right. This was the battle where the Royal Black Fleet sort of bonsai charges Krakens in a really, really strong position. And because we have so many games to go through today, I want to get to kind of the highlight moments. We call them the decision points, right? Those moments that matter where a left turn or a right turn really changes things. But before I do that, I see you guys are blowing up the chat, so I'm going to answer some questions really quick. I like the map trying to pick the same map once. That was cool, Eggs. That's right. Mid-season changes, I agree. We don't ever want to do mid-season changes because you guys are all planning your league experience around what we've established. Will we see what the upcoming naval update will bring? So yes, we will see what the upcoming naval update will bring. There are some things, and I'm on an NDA for this, so there's not a lot I can talk about. So I can really only talk about the things that have been like kind of publicly stated already. But I mean, okay. Motley's idea of the underdog deciding what kind of small boats they get is definitely in the cards. That's one of the ones I'm thinking about. I'm even thinking about the concept of, for again those if a lower tier team, like I'm so far at this point that maybe a lower bracket team fighting a higher bracket team, I might even allow them to sacrifice a certain amount of gunboats to get like an extra 8 gun or something. Like that's how far I am willing to go, because we could see that just, these 8 guns, they do a lot and they have a lot of maneuverability, but 8 gun imbalances don't change things. 13 gun imbalances very much do. But I'm sure people will argue against me on that one. So anyway, let's see. Gunboat and rocket boat. Right. So what Molly's saying is maybe they want all gunboats. And I think that's, yeah. Anyway, so let's get to the battle. I have seen and hopefully responded to all you guys in the chat, and I will continue to check back in here regularly. All right, so Krakens versus RBF. So we're gonna skip to around 1650 here and take a look at the moment that really counts. And the moment that really counts is as the RBF charges. This is the RBF here. Let's see if I can get my pen out. Yeah, right. So the RBF charging what is obviously an extremely strong defensive position here by the Krakens. This is one of the crazier moments in season 1. Definitely very fun. Not a very successful maneuver for the RBF. And I think they knew that going in. I think they were thinking, we're going to just have a lot of fun here. So I don't want to be too hard on them. I think this was not, something that was like mistakenly done. That said, we can talk about how maneuvers like this can work. We have seen how maneuvers like this can work in other certain situations, but we really need to talk about why this one didn't work and what could. Okay, so first off, the number one thing is the 13 gun in the front here. You do not want to lead this charge with a 13 gun because the 13 gun is your most important asset and it has the longest time to being uninterruptedly fired upon as it goes to where it ends up going, which is down here. So, you know, definitely, if you want to do this sort of straight line one after the other, you want your 13 gun like back here. And you want 8 guns leading this charge because you can lose an 8 gun. You can lose 2 8 guns. But if you end up getting your 13 gun behind the enemy lines, you can do tremendous amount of damage. And if you get your 13 gun in like 2 to 3 8 guns, like right back here, these guys are really screwed. So that's the number one thing if you want to do it like this. But I wouldn't suggest doing it like this. Instead, I would suggest keeping your 13 gun right about here and having every one of these 8 guns snake in right here like this, right? And just come in like this. So you create that line abreast and then charge the corresponding ships and ignore one of the 8 guns. So let's say we ignore this 8 gun over here. And then the 13 gun, so right, all these 8 guns are charging in for their corresponding ship. Save for except maybe the middle ship, because you definitely want one of the 8 guns to go for the 13 gun and disrupt it. And then you park your 13 gun right here, and you blast the enemy 13 gun with your 13 gun. And you just basically, you cause chaos in their line so they can't fire at your 13 gun. Because what have we learned here? 13 guns, when they sink, they have a undue influence on how the battle turns out. So if you sink your 13 gun and your 13 gun is really, really healthy, you're going to find that your team is really set up to win the rest of the battle. And so I would do a simultaneous charge. The benefits of a simultaneous charge is that these guys cannot really focus fire. I mean, they can if they're really, really, really good at focusing fire and their admiral is really on top of himself. But even still, even if you focus fire all on one ship, the distance between this and this is not a lot. You may do like half of a ship's worth of damage to one of those, and then that stops as soon as you collide with another ship. So you're going to get the chaos that you want out of this maneuver by sending the 8 guns in at their equivalent ship. And then you will, more importantly, keeping the 13 gun reserved and having it full fire on a 13 gun that itself is being boarded by an 8 gun. You're going to get the best bang for your buck out of that. So I would definitely consider more of a coordinated and simultaneous charge from the 8 guns rather than this line. But just for our own entertainment, let's see if I have the timestamp. I don't think I even do because I just kind of wanted to talk about this. But we'll let it play and see how the chaos unfolds. Spoiler alert, doesn't go great for the RBF. So we'll do this real fast. But they come in, and as you can see, the 13 gun just gets hammered. Every single shot's landing, and the 13 gun actually survives. I think it either survives or almost survives this charge. But it not in a good way. And you can see a great job here by the Krakens reversing their fleet to make sure that they're really cutting off this choke point back here. So kudos to them. I mean, they handled this absolutely perfectly. The RBF gave them the 13 gun to obliterate. Now, the problem here is actually the RBF does get the 13 gun behind their fleet. And I think the captain is dead on the 13 gun. So he doesn't get this prime opportunity because I'm sure when I was announcing for this, I was like, okay, stop. Okay, stop, right? Stop here. This is where you want to be stopped because then you're just blasting raking shots into the enemy 13. And unfortunately, I don't think they had the opportunity to do this. I think their captain was dead. I think their whole crew was dead. And that's another danger to this, right? Not only is your ship going to take tremendous amount of damage, there, see you go way past the mark where it doesn't want to be, to allowing the Krakens to hit them on their port side. So, the loss of life of your crew and the 30-second respawn timers, huge deal here that you have to be wary of. So, unfortunately, this was just a tough moment for the RBF, and they did not win this. They got pretty creamed from here on out. And that's, again, I think they were doing this for the fun factor, and we love a good RBF fun factor battle. But, we like to talk here in the Wardroom about things we can do to get the W's for ourselves. And I think that a slight adjustment on the plan would have been it. And I think they had plenty of time to do that if they wanted to. So maybe next time, throw those 8 guns in there first, send them at their corresponding ships simultaneously, or even if you don't send them simultaneously, even if they still one at another, send each 8 gun for the corresponding 8 gun across from them in the enemy fleet. It's going to scatter the focus fire of your enemy and allow you to confuse the enemy And always board the 13 gun. Always ram the 13 gun if you're going to do this. So, all right, let's move on because we're not going to watch this whole battle. Like I said, I really want to talk about the highlight points of each of these battles. We're going to move on to Week 9, Marines versus Leviathans. This was a tough loss for the Marines. I know that Chewie was in charge of this one, and he's a great admiral. I said it then, and I'll say it now. He is a top admiral in holdfasts and a great captain, and I just don't think he was particularly well served in this battle in some ways. I know that he had like brand new captains and such, and unfortunately it shows. And of course, Safe with Atticus on the flagship, Safe up in the sky commanding. I mean, these are guys who are just masters of the craft, and you will see how well this battle goes for them. So let's start at 23. 55 is where my mark here is. Let's see, 23, 55, somewhere around there. All right, well, that's good enough. All right, so these two teams, what they've done, I'm going to go back just a little bit so you can see how they set up, right? So we have Marines and the L ships over here, Leviathans over here. The Marines are going up this pill-shaped island. The Leviathans are going to come in and kind of swing around. They're going to have kind of a basic line battle. The only issue there is that the two rear 8 guns don't follow the fleet up. I remember Chewie giving me an explanation for why this was. There was some logic behind it. It didn't work out. I think that he was well, let's just say it didn't work out. So we've got these two approaching. And I'm talking about where these guys could go. That's not me drawing now. That's me drawing before. But you can see these two 8 guns, just stopping there. Now, this is actually a cool move, and it could have really benefited the Marines if these captains kind of had a plan for what to do. But they just sat there. They didn't do anything. So, what could they have done? Well, these fleets are, let me draw on here. Yeah, we go. These fleets are going to go in this direction, basically. These guys have the opportunity to cut across. Now, would they have been checked by the rear 2 8 guns? Probably. But it would have created some interesting confusion back here, and whoever won that fight maybe could have crossed behind the enemy fleet, whether it's this way or this way, and fired up towards where these enemy fleets are going to end up going. Instead, what ends up happening is Chewie and these ships realize, oh, we're not going to win against the entire Leviathan's fleet aiming at us, and they run this way, where the Leviathans kind of do a very slow turnaround here, and then they come back down, if I believe this way. So what Chewie, I think, I don't know if he actually meant to do this. We talked about this with him, and it's been such a long time since I remember this exit interview. When they loop around behind this pill-shaped island, we thought that they were trying to lure the Leviathans in, and certainly it could have been a lure, because then these ships could have flung around and entrapped the Leviathan's fleet in the air. Leviathans don't fall for it. My guys are pretty good at spotting traps, and we don't usually fall for them if we can help it. That said, not a lot of a dust up here. It's a little bit of damage. It's nothing crazy, but let's go to 28:58. So we're just going to skip ahead. Now, this is the result of that maneuver. I'm sorry, I lost my big screen. So they've at this point now, they've wrapped around here and they've rejoined their fleet. They have a problem here, however. And the problem is their orientation of their ships. 13 guns going this way. These two rear 8 guns going this way. These two forward 8 guns going this way. So that's not good. These two 8 guns probably have to whip around. I don't know how good the wind is there for them. But anyway, what you're going to notice about this moment is the difference of focus fire. X is going to do a great job focusing fire on the 13 gun. And basically at this point, both 13 guns are taking a bit of damage. But the Leviathans really just pour everything they've got into that 13 gun. And as you can see, it is a lot more than they're receiving. Their 13 gun might not even be in range of these back 2 8 guns. So it's all about range. It's all about making sure your fleet is in good order. The Marines with, again, newer captains and all that stuff, they just don't have the good order to fight back against this like pristine Leviathan's formation, right? Why is it pristine? For those of you who are not too experienced in admiraling, it's because the 8 guns are forward set and the 13 gun is offset backwards. And so that puts the 13 gun at an extreme range for the enemy's 8 guns, while the 8 guns and the 13 gun are both in range of the enemy 13 gun, right? So the goal is your 13 gun has a longer range cannon battery than the 8 guns. So you want your 8 guns to be close to the enemy and taking hits. And you want your 13 gun to be far removed from the enemy and not taking hits because it's such an important ship and it can put out so much firepower at such a long range. So that's what the Leviathans are doing really good here. And this looks great, and it is great, and they do sink this 13 with rapid speed. And then, even better, they get this beautiful maneuver through the end where they get to wrap around the remainder of the 8 guns in the Marine fleet and hit them from the rear. And that is really the end of the battle, and that's how it really concludes. So we'll skip. This is I'd mark this as sort of focus fire paying dividends for the Leviathans, and it very much does. You can see that the 13 gun is trying to hide behind the island, which it probably should have done a little earlier, and I think Chewie talks about that in his exit interview. Probably should have hid that 13 gun earlier behind the island, and that's okay. You know, listen, these things happen. We learn from them. And again, Chewie already a great admiral. You know, he has even more improvement to go, as we all do. But all the improvement that he gets is just going to make him even more fearsome of an adversary. Now, let's get to around 33 here, because that's when you can really see that this action is going to result in the Leviathans coming around here, and these guys are just kind of sitting pretty, trying to finish off the Leviathans' 8 guns. Sitting pretty in that position is about as bad as it can get for the Marines at this point, because, well, you'll see how it goes when we get to about 35 minutes. And I'm not drawing on here. That's old me, or maybe younger me, I guess we'd call him. And you can see that the Leviathans cut around behind a disoriented Marines fleet that seems to be lacking the understanding of what to do in this situation. They've turned too late. They're trying to get into some kind of firing line. Every ship is out for himself. There's no cohesion here. And the Leviathans smell blood in the water. They cannot help themselves. They are going to get a beautiful envelopment on 2 sides. They're going to blast these guys. I think they end up losing a single ship, but that's really not because the Leviathans did anything wrong, but they just wanted to press this advantage even more so, to have this 8 gun at a crossfire with the rest of the fleet. And like, losing a ship's not a big deal, especially if you're going to keep your other 4 in great order. I think maybe they don't lose it. I really don't remember. But nonetheless, this is a beautiful victory for the Leviathans, and this is where they really start mopping the floor with the Marines. Because the Marines, why? Because the Marines did not anticipate that the Leviathans were going to swing around behind them and set themselves up in a position. And this is the only thing, like, this is the thing that really separates experienced captains from inexperienced captains. And we know in this battle that these are some inexperienced captains. So no fault to them. Again, I'm sure this is a spectacular learning lesson for them, and I hope, again, that they take the lessons they learned from this battle and apply them. And the number one lesson that you can apply, gentlemen, if you are listening, is you must move as a single unit. Every ship for themselves is a very dangerous dogma to be following as a captain. It's a very dangerous doctrine to have as a fleet. You really don't want it. All right, I'm going to hop over to the chat and see if I've missed anything in the meantime. Okay, so let's see. 13 guns shenanigans. Okay. I got an idea of something prominent. The mentorship program could offer to lower ranked teams an effort to try and each teach them tactics. I mean, I think it's great. I would be happy to run captains clinics myself. I've done it for the crews and captains of X. Part of the reason these X guys really do know what they're doing is that over many years, we've instilled a habit of looking back on our own battles and critiquing ourselves. We don't always do it. Sometimes we fall off, but we generally do have our captain's trainings where we go over battles of events and NSL, and we talk candidly about what we think we did wrong, and then all the other admirals kind of just tell us what they think we did wrong. And it can be a very humbling experience, but at the same time, if you know everybody's there to help you get better, then the feedback that they're giving you is just wonderful. So, yeah. All right. So I think we organize teams with the Krakens for trainings. Wardroom crayon to orange. Why? Oh, my Wardroom crayon's so nice. Oh, you want a different crayon? I see what you're saying. All right, hold on. I think I can. So here, do you guys like my magenta. What do you think of that? Maybe we'll go for that. Yeah. We have I mean, I do have black. I have blue, yellow, magenta, and black. I think magenta is probably the one that's going to stand out the most, so we'll go with that. All right, so that'll be my wardroom one. All right, so all right. Still sad to lose Eggs and his crew. It was a worthy sacrifice. It was a great sacrifice. All right, so everybody's okay with that new color, then we will move on from there. We're going to go to the next battle here. This was a great one. Thanks, Leviathans and Marines, for putting on a great show for us. We have the Royal Black Fleet versus the Jackals here. This was the one that had a little bit of a slow start, but let's start. Let's jump over 25 minutes in, 25:41. So we have basically these guys come out and they have a bit of a line battle. Now, let's take a look at these positions. The reason I chose this moment is you could really see I'll kind of flip on its head of the doctrine of keeping your 13 gun offset. I would say, and again, these are the Jackals over here. I would say the Jackals have offset their 13 gun too much here, right? So if we're taking a look at where we would like our 13 gun in an ideal situation, somewhere like right here with the fleet, or if it's at the lead of the fleet, that's fine. Somewhere right here is nice. All the way back here means that if these guys just drift a little bit this way, you don't have a 13 gun on them anymore. That's not good. So this battle, let's progress it a little bit while we talk. What happens here is that the RBF, they basically break out a little bit. Let me pull the playback speed up a little bit. They just break off, and this 13 gun's not in any position to punish them for it, and that's an issue because the 13 gun should be able to, at this range, because this is not a far range, maybe 400 meters. I don't know. I can't see the pings here, but yeah, I mean, we're looking, 425 because you're seeing some kills up here. 425, you've got, 30 seconds of fire on them if they were to turn away from you. So we want to make sure that your 13 gun is in a position to still do damage, even if it's being protected by distance. When these two guys leave the front, it leaves the 13 gun and the 8s to really pound. I believe they pound one of the 8 guns here. Do a really good job of that. So just wanted to note the 13 gun positioning from the Jackals. It's not bad because, I mean, you can still see it is throwing shots pretty far in. I'm not going to say it's horrible. I'd like it a little closer. But also what we can see is just, look at these shots. They're all over the place. These guys are not focusing fire. Gentlemen, you must focus your fire. You have to pick a target. Every guy can't be for himself. Every captain can't choose his own target. The admiral has to choose the target. You have to have a unified purpose for your fire, or else you're spreading it too thin. And as you can see from the Royal ship HPs, they're not taking a lot of damage here. 2 of the Jackal ships have been pounded, whereas 1 of the Royals have. And frankly, it's not been that much of a difference on like who has access to what shots. So both of the teams, they really have the same opportunities, and yet the Royals are putting forward. They're putting forward because I think they probably have a little bit more of a focus fire. I mean, a little bit. I mean, you can see that the focus fire is kind of going towards this lead ship. And that's the one that's going to get really bruised up by the time they get out of here. All right, so let's skip a little bit ahead to... we're going to skip 10 minutes ahead, actually, here, because what happens at this point is both of these fleets break off, and then they just sail up here out of each other's range. The difference between what the two teams do is that the Royal Black Fleet stay together, and the Jackals, as the Jackals are wont to do, split their forces. They split their 13 gun. I think the 13 gun stays down here, and the 8 guns go up this way. And that is the beginning of the end for the Jackals in this battle, and we'll watch it happen. So let's go to 37 minutes in, where we can really see a little further. We can really see this begin to play out. So these up here, just to reorient everybody, these up here are the Jackals 8 guns. This down here is the Jackals 13 gun, and this over here is the entire Royals fleet. The Royals maneuver in this moment is beautiful. I mean, absolutely stunning work of fleet maneuvering, of turning on a dime, of getting the enemy to think you're going for one, and then going for another part of their fleet. They go up here, and it looks like the 13 gun's going to get to amble on in and swing around and join its 8 guns in a line battle between the two fleets out here. The Royals want them to think that, and they spin around this island and catch this 13 gun with its pants down, and they obliterate it. It's awesome. Again, one of my favorite moments of season 1 is what the Royals do here. So let's watch it happen. So as you can see, this develops into a situation where the entire Royal Black Fleet is fighting the 8 guns over here. The injured 8 gun, the Jackals are getting good at a few things here. I mean, this is not their best battle, but they're getting good at a few things. And one of them is micromanaging the fleet so that ships that are battered, like this little guy hanging over here, you wouldn't even notice if I didn't point him out. He is this ship up here. So he got no HP. So he's out of the battle, but they keep him. They keep him away. It's great for multiple reasons. It lures not 8 guns. It lures gunboats over to that area to go sink him, and then those gunboats aren't maybe doing anything in this battle. And if the gunboats don't go harass him and try and sink him, then they get to keep their ship. Even though they've lost his firepower, they keep the ship on the board. Very important. All right. So the Jackals will now make it look like they're going for these. This 13 gun is thinking, I'm going to get behind these Jackals. I'm going to hit them from the rear. My guys are going to hit them from the side. This is going to be great. Then we get to about 39-46, which is coming up real fast. And I want to just show this motion here, this beautiful, beautiful circle that they're going to do, and then hit this ship out here, which, forgive my penmanship. It's a thing of absolute beauty because these guys now, the wind is south. So the wind is, I guess, this way. So again, for these guys, the wind is this way. So it's not like they can catch up, but they're not going to catch up. But what this does is it allows the turn that the Royals are doing. This turn right here is purely with the wind. To escape it, this 13 gun has to go against the wind through this channel. Doing that is very bad and very slow, and it allows him to be caught with his pants down. So, guys, it's very, very, very difficult to split up your fleets accurately. It's a really bad thing to do when you should be on the defensive. And so I would just warn anybody, you don't want to do this. You do not want to get your 13 gun isolated like this for the entire enemy fleet to then just form a ring around your 13 gun and beat it to death. Just an absolutely beautiful maneuver from the Royals that I want you guys to just watch and enjoy with me here as I take a look at the chat and see if there's anything I've missed. Oh, I'm not a big beer drinker myself. I like wine. I don't really like alcohol in a general sense. Yeah, this is yeah, the video is trolling me a little bit. So I mean, look at this. I mean, this is, you couldn't ask for a better position than this. The 8 guns are not in the battle. They're racing to get over here. They have the wind, but they don't. What they don't have is time. What they don't have is the time to save their 13 gun, and it gets, I believe, sunk pretty quickly after this. Is again just a beautiful maneuver. It just goes to show you how good when the enemy splits itself up, this and they get in a threatening range of enveloping you in some way. Pick whichever side you can get to fastest and slam it as hard as you can. And the best thing that you can do is what the Royals did here, which is make your enemy think that they're going for one and then go for the other. Like hats off, Royal Black Fleet. This was a stupendous victory here with 7 minutes left on the board. This was just magnificent. That 13 guns got just nothing that it can do there. Tough loss for the Jackals. As we've seen recently, the Jackals have really, they play risky. They play risky games. And it more often does not serve them than it does serve them. But when it does serve them, as we will see later, it serves them very well. All right, so let's move on to the next battle. We have the Leviathans versus the Jackals. The Jackals, it's just the Jackals and the Jackals and the Jackals and the Jackals. So they had a lot going on as we approached midseason. And we take our hats off to brave warriors like the Jackals who just get in there and fight and fight and fight and fight. All right, so this is game 11. Again, the Leviathans versus the Jackals. So let's start at 26-36 here. 26-36. As these teams come together, I'll just show you like some clips of where we are to get to here. So they go just to kind of to catch us up to where we're going to end up. It's basically, whoa, that's thick. It goes that way. Yeah, so that's where we're going to be when we get to 26. And let's get there. 26-36. All right, so what we have here is the Jackals on the, I'm sorry, the Leviathans on the left side, Jackals on the right. So the Leviathans send a ship behind the Jackals, trying to do a little bit of, fun stuff here. Jackals absolutely check it with the rear ship of their own, and we've just got a good old-fashioned battle here. You'll see that what I would say differentiates the styles here is that the Leviathans offset their 13 gun and the Jackals do not. Also, the Jackals lead with their 13 gun. So, with those two factors in mind, you can predict that the Jackals are going to lose their 13 gun first, and the Leviathans are going to keep themselves relatively healthy throughout. Great shot here of Monkey Cheese from FRL, just slamming away at that flagship. Great focus fire there, Monkey Cheese. Keep it up. Shooting at the front cannon, so that's very nice. So as we can see here, these fleets have developed into their formation that they're going to hold here, and as I said before, the Leviathans have offset their 13 gun. This is really nice. Even this 8 gun, and they're all focusing fire on the 13. So that is just a great firing position here. This is a great setup. This is just all around good for the Leviathans. And as you can see from the ship HP totals there, the Leviathans are sacrificing an 8. The Jackals are sacrificing a 13. That is not a trade that anybody would choose to make in this league unless you absolutely had to. So once the 13 gun goes down, then what the Leviathans do really smartly and just sort of to get some extra style points here is they create an envelopment situation. There's the 13 gun down, so they're going to send their lead ship forward, and they're going to cross behind with one of those 8 guns with the 13 gun and one of the 8 guns holding the middle. I think that 8 gun actually sinks in the middle. So either way, this envelopment is a really nice way to pressure the enemy and minimize the enemy's ability to focus fire because they're getting distracted by all the different angles of attack that they're getting hit by. This is just a great move. I wouldn't say it's sealed the deal for the Leviathans. They're already kind of winning at this point because they've taken out the 13 gun. But what it does is, again, you could see each individual captain. This is something the Jackals are prone to, right? It is about each captain just chooses his own target, and they, they're not 100% in focusing fire here. Some of them are going for the 13. Some of them are going for this 8. Nobody's going for this 8. That's maybe the second most. I think the 13 has the most dangerous ship. This is definitely the second most. But they're not breaking anything off. At this point, they're dug in, right? Jackals are just going to sit here and they're going to fight it out. Well, it doesn't really go too great for them. And, that's how this battle, for the most part, gets won. The 13 gun takes just about no damage on the Leviathan's team, which is always a big victory. To not feel the pressure of your 13 gun possibly going down is a great thing to feel. So kudos, Atticus, for keeping your 13 gun out of danger. That's what we like to see. And the rest of the battle kind of just goes predictably here. Let's see if I can get any kind of going backwards now. Sorry, I know I give people seizures with how much I flick around this. But yeah, I mean, at this point, the Jackal ships get kind of taken out one by concentrated fire. Tough loss for the Jackals, great win for the Leviathans. Not too much else to say about this battle. I would say that the 13 gun being offset is, again, it just proves itself again and again and again to be the strategy that really works to preserve the fleet. I kind of wish it didn't, to be honest. On a personal level, I hate the 13 guns role in fleets, and we even tried to increase the 8 guns HP this season to offset the importance of the 13 gun, but that was sort of folly. Yeah, not folly, because I think it did make for better battles. The 8 guns can last longer, and we always do like that, but it didn't move the needle enough because the 13 gun's real power is range. It's range. And the amount of cannons it has, and no amount of debuffing or buffing of other ships is going to change the fact that the 13 gun can deal more damage from a farther range. So unless we take the 13 gun out and make this an all 8 gun league, which would be itself kind of a boring thing, then we're just going to have to deal with the fact that the 13 gun is the queen of every fleet she sails with, and she must be protected, or maybe the king. All right. So let me take a look at the stream chat, see if there's anything there. Lines get thicker. Yeah, all right, let's see. Let's see where we're at with my lines at this point, and if there's anything I can do to change it, because these are just thick lines. Thick. All right. How about? Oh, that's too thin. Okay, hold on. Let's find a middle ground. Yeah, I like that. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's move on to another battle. The next one is the Krakens versus the Marines. So I like this battle a lot. I really like the beginning for the Marines, and obviously I like the end for the Krakens. The reason I like the beginning for the Marines is that they shook off the Krakens in the beginning. The Krakens have the better wind, right? Wind direction is going southeast, really bad for the Marines. The Marines have a little bit of a habit of going with bad wind, which I think is something that they've really got to look at. Um, it does not tend to serve them very well to go dead against wind. Um, Whereas these guys can have half wind going to the same area, and so they're going to get there lightning fast. Uh, let's watch that happen from 22:35. So 22:35. So we can really see this is where the battle ends up being at the start, or it doesn't end up being, sorry. This is where it seems like it's going to end up being. And then again, I think very intelligently, sorry, let's switch that, get that a little bit of higher resolution there. Um, if we can. All right. Uh, yeah, I think the Marines leaving this position and then heading what I guess is like southish is a great maneuver. And so you can see here, this is them kind of fleeing. So that was a great thing. Um, that said, I think almost at every position, the Marines had the opportunity to put up a defensive position and then just whack the Krakens as they come in. I don't think the Krakens would do, for example, like an RBF style bonsai charge at their fleet, but I think the Marines could have put up a good defensive position. The Krakens are clearly looking to get to them, right? So the Krakens are chasing them, right? The Marines never leave their side of the spawn. They're hemmed in on their side. And so the Marines have to figure out, okay, where in our spawn, this is what everybody has to think about when they don't have good wind. Okay, I'm not going to get to the other side of this map. I have to stop pretending like I'm going to be able to get to the other side of this map. I can't go anywhere that the enemy's not going to be able to get faster. And so we've got to just think about, okay, where do I want to set up my defensive position here? And where do I want the enemy to go? That gives me the best opportunity to set up a nice wall and then just hammer them as they come in. Because the enemy's got to come to you, right? If you're playing a defensive game, if they're on the aggressive with the wind, they've got to come to you. Where do you want that to happen? And in those moments, while the enemy is setting up a position, you can set up your defensive position and hit them there. Now, these two guys kind of flirt with each other. Let's skip a little bit ahead to 27-17. I think the Marines should have made their stand. Okay, so let's take a look at why I think this is where the Marines should have made their stand. We've got the Krakens over here. We've got the Marines over here. The Krakens are, this is a wall that they cannot get through, right? This is, I think gunboats only can make it through this little channel. So these guys are going to have to come around this way. And this is a fairly narrow point. I believe at this point that the Marines want to set up somewhere around here. They want to hem towards this wall and then rocket out this way, luring the Krakens in as much as they want. They can even do it a little further. They can go in here and hem out this way and create, again, a defensive line that the Krakens, as they turn this corner, are going to get tagged one after the next, right? Because the Krakens very likely are not going to like come over here, turn every ship in this direction, and then sail line abreast into a narrow gap. I just don't see that happening. And so if you can, this is a terrible perspective to do it from, but if you can get in here and then just whip around this way so that your firing line is where they're going to come around and come in, that's a great defensive position. So don't be afraid to find it and get in there and do it. Instead, the Marines choose to basically dodge the Krakens again. Now, 2 dodges in, we're not really accomplishing anything anymore. And that's my critique here for both teams. But you can see that the Krakens, they've crossed the field. They're here for battle. And the Marines keep denying them that battle. We have a lot of time left on the board here, so it's not a big deal to do this a second time. But again, when fleets separate, they don't separate with one chasing after the other. They both go in opposite directions. So now we've got another, few minutes of nothing happening here. So let's skip a little bit forward, and let's go to 3241, around here-ish. Okay. Now we're back in the same position. This is the position that the battle started at, with the Marines having bad wind and the Krakens having good wind, right? Because where are we at here? The Marines, the wind is southeast. The the Marines are going against the bad wind. This is not a good position to be in, and the enemy knows it. They're going to try and cross, probably up here actually, and even more catastrophically, the Marines' flagship is going to try and go in a circuitous route around, and it's going to miss most of the most important moments of this battle. So let's watch it play out and see what we can do about that. All right. So yeah, let's skip a little bit ahead. Skip a little bit more ahead. Get to the point where you could see this is a moment, I think, of paralysis for the 13 gun. He doesn't know what to do. He's hiding behind this island because he knows if this fleet gets around, they're going to tag him. He's turning left. He's thinking maybe the Krakens. I think what to be generous to the Marines captain, I think what he thinks is that the Krakens are going to stay on this side of the islands. And so he's going to go this way, and his fleet's going to go like up this way, and maybe they'll be able to cut him off from the front and the back. But the Krakens have every capacity to just move forward. When they see that this 13 gun is breaking off towards their rear, they get their rear out of there. Then they have a lot of ability to fight these 4 8 guns up here and put a lot of damage into them. And that is what they do. So let's skip ahead 36-ish minutes. Now here's the results of that maneuver. And you can see catastrophic how far away this 13 gun is. And again, it's going basically against the wind to get there. This is a very tough position for this 13 gun to be in. It can't use its square sails, can't pick up speed, can't get to the battle. The entire Kraken's fleet is fighting the Marines fleet minus its most important ship. So great job to the Krakens for keeping that superiority that you built up. They tried to shake you in the beginning. It looked like they might have shaken you from a good position, but then they went right back to the bad position they'd shaken from you originally. This is the battle. Keep in mind, this is the battle that the Marines denied the Krakens earlier on when the Krakens were trying to come around this way and the Marines were up here. Why would we go back? Why go back? You know, it didn't work. You didn't like it the first time when you had your 13 gun with you. I certainly don't like it the second time when you don't have your 13 gun with you. Tough. Again, just tough. You know, the Krakens are a great team. They're not going to give you too many openings. You've got to find a position where they feel like they're confident attacking, and yet they shouldn't feel confident. And I think that was lower. I think that was the moment I identified earlier. So, predictably, without the 13 gun, the Marines get pummeled pretty bad here, and it's a losing uphill battle for them from here on out. And then, to the Kraken's great credit, when the Marines 13 gun does finally get to the battle, it has an opportunity to get into a good position, and they just use this rear ship here, and they just turn it out, and they completely distract the 13 gun from doing anything of value to the Krakens, which, let's see if I have a timestamp for that. 40, so 40, 37, let's get to it. So you can see here, this right here, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This 8 gun and this 13 gun. The 13 gun is completely tied up with that 8 gun while the Kraken's fleet finishes off the battle. And I think the Krakens are even pulling weakened ships out of the battle so that they don't get taken down. They are so confident here because this is an even battle at this point. Totally confident. I think those 8 guns will maybe come back later. Either way, a masterclass in why the Krakens are the number 2 team here. They're very good, and they know what to do with their ships. They know that 13 gun is going to get aggressive. Having the 2 weakest ships pulled out of the battle, they will be able to fire on the 13 gun, but none of those 8 guns that are back there are going to be able to fire on them. Just a really, really great play from the Krakens, not really losing too much. I don't know if they lose a ship in this battle. Maybe they do. Oh, they do. They lose 1. They lose the ship that they had sacrificed to the 13 gun. And but look at this. They've reformed their line with those 2 ships. They're just... hats off to the Krakens. Hats off to the Krakens. As usual, a great team, doing great. All right, let's move on to Jackals v. Leviathans. Again, Jackals are just having to fight the top 2 teams of the league back to back. I mean, this is just not back to back, but obviously this was the Marines' last game. But in quick succession, they have a lot of battles, and we sympathize with them for having to fight some very tough teams. This is a battle I think that inspired. This was a defeat that led to future Jackals victories. And so, obviously this has got, I think this is a special moment for the Jackals where they end up at the end of this battle boarding Leviathan ships, demasting, and having lots of fun doing it. And they really start to see, oh well, maybe this is a playstyle for us. Before I get too into this, I'm going to head over to the chat, see if there's anything in here. Dude, Liar's Dice. I would love to play a game of Liar's Dice with some of the guys from the NSL someday. That'd be so much fun. It is a real game. You can play it. I play it with my friends a lot, and it is very fun. All right. You guys want to see my Parmesan crusted footsies? There's a sentence I didn't think I'd be saying today. 13 gun is a great way to force the enemy to do what you want because of their perceived importance. I couldn't agree with that more. The 13 gun is not only the most powerful ship, it is the primary target of your enemy, and so keep it in mind. All right. Okay. Wavy saying that all ships could have made it through that channel that I said nobody could make it through. I wonder if they would have thought to go through that. It is a dangerous maneuver because it is very narrow. One more wrong move and you could hit those sides. But anyway, okay. All NSL battles I got into fight with Song and Canada special in hand. Okay. Okay. Yeah, they can get stuck in the cameras. Careful. Movie just too slow to complete the plans ahead. What's your favorite sea shanty, lads? Okay, very good. All right, let's get into the Jackals v Leviathans here. The Jackals have a strong opening here. Don't want to minimize that. I want to go to settings and see if we can get 1080. Nope, we're on 720. Ooh. All right. Let's double the playback speed and get into this thing. So the Jackals cutting up here actually spooks the Leviathans in a really nice way. And you can see the results of that is the Leviathans don't go through this channel because they would be tagged by the Jackals if they did so. I think the Jackals miss an opportunity here. They don't realize that the Leviathans are a little bit grouped up. This is not the Leviathan's finest fleet maneuver moment, and I think they should have. Let's see where the wind is going. The wind's going south, so maybe they shouldn't have. I was gonna say cross, somewhere over here and cut off the Leviathans. I don't think that would have worked. So I do understand that the Jackals then turn out and bring the battle to a different place, and I guess I don't blame them for doing so. So, only team in the league, Leviathans, only team in the league that when they see an enemy retreating, charge the enemy. Makes me very proud to be a Leviathan. Gotta love to see it. Instead of breaking off in the other direction, they say, fuck it, we're going in. And we love to see that. So that leads to, let's see if we can get a real overhead here. Not really. So, 27:33, we're past that. So anyway, let's just watch this. There was a moment here that I do want to note. Let's see. This 8-gun here did get boarded, and it hit an island. We talk a lot about how good boarding actions can be, but I would say that a boarding action is only so good as what it allows your fleet to do, right? So this boarding action, while really cool, doesn't actually accomplish anything except for to harass that ship for a few minutes. The Leviathans don't skip a beat; they keep going forward, and this ship just kind of falls back in the line a little bit. This is a situation where you really want to be boarding enemy fleets, and the Jackals will do this later. We will see. You want to be boarding an enemy fleet at the moment of contact with your fleet, right? So you want your rocket boats to hit while the enemy is distracted by your larger fleet. In this situation, they are fighting the larger fleet, but it's not like an interaction. It's more just like a line battle, and the Leviathans managed to shake it off. I mean, this is not the worst gunboat boarding action I've ever seen by any means. It was good. It stopped a ship's operations for a good 20, 30 seconds. That in itself is great. So I don't want to be too critical here. It was good. And again, I think the Jackals are just starting to see, we're good at this. Like, we should do more of this. But my thing here in this battle for the Jackals, and again, I don't really have to tell them because they definitely did learn this. But if you're going to board the enemy, it should not be as a reaction to losing your 13 gun, right? You want to plan to board, not board because you have no plan. You can see at this point, the Jackal's 13 gun is like running, scared, because it knows it's about to sink. far too late to offset your 13 gun. You have to offset your 13 gun way before you meet the enemy, not after the enemy's beating you up a little bit. Now the Jackals come in. They this is cool. This is really fun. Everything that comes after this is a blast. I'm sure for everybody involved, it's really, really, really fun. It is not, however, effective. And the Leviathans are the team more than anybody in the league that you want to board and you want to kill. We do have some good melee guys. We really do. I can posit that guys like Jugan, for example, can get out there because he's a transfer from the 45E. That's why he's good at melee. He can go and fight with the best of you. But our rank and filer guy is just a great cannoneer, a great captain, a great deck officer. We do have tactics for repelling boarding actions, but it's not to overcome the enemy with our superior melee skills. And so, this is a great thing for the Jackals to do. It allows them to stay having lots of fun and shake up our operations in a way that is just exciting to watch for us as viewers and also really good strategically. I wish they had done it when they had a perfectly good 13 gun. This is the perfect situation. This was the perfect situation to do an entire fleet spin into our stuff. So let's go back to when they should have done it. And it's somewhere around here, right? So we're back. We just gone back maybe like 5-10 minutes. This is where you have your 13 gun offset, and then you take every one of these. I wish I had an overhead shot of this. I really don't. Wait, maybe I do. Right here. Okay. So right here, this is where you want to do it. The wind is south. So the wind is basically this way. So what you do is you send them diagonally forward. You send them to where the enemy ship is going to be when you reach. All these 8 guns are going to get hammered while you're doing so. But it doesn't matter. They're 8 guns. You can lose them. They can take some punishment. And then you have your 13 fire at their 13, and you have one of these 8 guns. When it gets to where the 13 gun is going to be, it hits the 13 gun. You disable the enemy's 13 gun. You hit them with your 8 guns. Your 13 gun is completely unbothered. You have free fire with your 13 gun. You do what the Jackals love to do, which is disrupt our operations. You have perfect wind to do it. But instead, the Jackals chose to do it after hope was extinguished in their 13 gun. I would not suggest doing that. Make it your strategy. And I think, again, I'm beating the Jackals up a little bit here. They clearly, as we will see in the last battle we'll talk about today, they clearly did figure this out. And I hope they continue to figure it out. Yeah, I see, I'm seeing in the chat somebody saying it's too far. I don't agree that it is too far. Now, those 8 guns are going to get popped doing it. No question you're going to take damage on your 8 guns. But remember, you're only going to get taken damage on your 8 guns until the moment of contact with the Leviathan's 8 guns. And then you have taken the Leviathan's only win condition and thrown it out the window, which is coordinated fire. Leviathans win by coordinating expert cannoneers. You stop that coordination and you stop the Leviathans. I mean, it can be that simple. Yeah, okay. And listen, I'm sure there's reasons why this didn't happen. And I certainly don't want to nitpick at every one of them for you guys. I'm offering alternatives here. Maybe they would have worked, maybe they wouldn't have, but that's the whole point, is to think of the counterfactual here. So obviously there are reasons why that didn't happen. But I think it would have saved your 13 gun a lot of damage, and I think it would have shaken the Leviathan's shot coordination on the 13 gun. So that's why I think that this is beneficial. We do have weaknesses. I promise, Wavy, we really do have weaknesses. And it is absolutely our because a lot of teams don't pressure us. They don't pressure us in the way that we need to be pressured, which is to stop our coordinated fire. I really do think that's the way to beat the Leviathans. But anyway, that's obviously a very self-serving. It could be a very self-serving lie. Who knows? Anyway. The chaos is gorgeous. We have a lot of fun. It's a great battle. And thanks again, Jackals, for another great one. All right, so we're going to go to the Royal Black Fleet versus the Marines here. This is battle, 14? Let me get to my notes, which I wrote down on a pad and pen here. Harder pressure from downwind. It definitely is. I would only suggest doing the pressure in a situation like the that the Jackals had, where you both have pretty good wind, and the cut between those two fleets where you're angling into and charging Leviathans would be done with the best favorable wind. If you don't have that, don't do it. Okay. RBF versus the Marines. Let's see. This is the one where the battle is kind of going fairly evenly, and then the Marines, I think maybe for reasons like the 13 gun had lost some cannons or something, they try to do a flip right in the face of the enemy, and it does not work out so great. So let's start 2355, somewhere around here. This is the first engagement of the fleets. Let me just do my settings here real quick. Playback speed doubled. All right, so this is the first engagement. We have, again, the Royals on the left, Marines on the right, green ships are the Marines. So, this is a perfectly fine line battle. Nothing to see here too much. 3301 is, so they come out here, they fight a little bit. There's a little bit of a back fleet action. But then we get to somewhere around 31 where the Royals say, you know what, I don't really like this battle. And both teams flip outwards. And they just decide we're going to have the battle somewhere else. And again, I think that's fine. We see this a lot happening in battles where the fleets kind of start with a line battle at pretty extreme ranges from each other, and then one of the teams decides, like, I don't feel good about this, and I want to set up an alternate situation, where we leave, and then let's actually get to looking at that. As you can see here, let's let this. You can see that they both just kind of spun out, and they've decided to have a different fight. Again, this is the Marines find themselves in these situations, and they are not given favorable wind in both of these and their battle with the Krakens, where they are kind of penned into their side of the battlefield. And I think they're building an understanding over time that you're not going to leave that. If the enemy has good wind and you don't, you're never going to leave your spawn zone. And the question is, okay, where do we want to fight in our spawn zone? So again, the Royals and the Marines, they just duke it out in a different direction this time. All's good. The Marines are taking a little bit of the worst of it, but it's not anything catastrophic. But I think they have lost some cannons, and they certainly do lose some cannons by the time they get to, let's say, 35 minutes here. So I think maybe by this point you're seeing, I think the Marines are probably not able to fire back with as much as they are given. And the Royal Black Fleet has their 13 gun, like, it's not even in the battle. And I don't even fault them for this because they're offset. I like a good offset 13 gun. I don't want my 13 gun to be in range of the entire enemy fleet. I want the 8 guns to basically not. I want the 13 gun to be able to hit the 8 guns, and the 8 guns to not be able to hit the 13 gun. That's something eminently doable for both fleets here. The Marines, however, see the wall and they turn in. It's a tough maneuver here. I get why they did it, but I could never ever advise turning into an entire enemy broadside. I just can't do it. No matter what you think is going to happen, what's always going to end up happening is you're going to lose all your cannons. You're going to lose all your crew. You just gotta offset your 13 gun earlier in this battle and just throw shots at them from a distance and let your 8 guns do the leading of your fleet. Now, I think some admirals on 13 guns think I have to be in front of the fleet to lead my fleet, but you could do it verbally, or put a captain that you trust, or don't take your 13 gun, leave it in the hands of a trusted captain and take the 8 gun that is going to actually lead the fleet. I just wouldn't, I would not do it if I could help it. So just be very careful about where you're putting your 13 gun, because you can end up in a situation like this, and it doesn't end well for the Marines, as we can see here in like close up high definition. It's a beautiful shot. Kudos to the correspondents on this one. That was a great shot of the 13 gun just getting slapped around. Now the Marines have they have a full rest of their fleet, so it's not like they're dead. They have all their 8 guns are in perfect condition. So what do you do here to turn this around? And the answer is you isolate. You got to find a way to pull ships away from the fleet in a chase with you, and then sink them one at a time. So they're going to do what I think is the best option here for them, is to head southwest, coordinated as a fleet. But unfortunately, that nearest 8 gun to the Royal Black Fleet's fleet is it's just going to take so much focus fire. Royals do have a great focus fire. You can really see it here. They know that the target presents itself to them, and they can take it. So let's move a little bit forward to 39, somewhere close to 40 minutes in. You can see now this ship has gone down, but the Marines are trying to escape with the 3 that they still have. Just a very, very difficult. It's hard to win. Now that you're down 2 ships, it's very hard to win. Hard to come back from that. Again, they're trying to come around and hit these rear 2 ships. I think that's the right idea. But the Royals have wind at their backs, so they're going to be able to reform really nicely. Just tough. Admirals are guiding the whole line while on a gunboat. Honestly, I like it. I think somebody should do it. Gunboat Admiral, gunboat Admiral. So yeah, it's kind of a lost cause for the Marines, and yet I must say this from the Marines: their final charge is a thing of beauty. So let's go skip to it and take a look at 49 minutes in. Obviously, the rest of this battle just doesn't really go great for them. They don't lose too much ship HP, but check this out. These two ships back here are going to come in, and they are going to they're going to try and envelop this 13 gun. So one's going to go in the front, the other one's going to go in the back. Thanks a lot, camera changes, for ruining my crayon time. And let's watch it happen. There it is. So you can see here, I'm going to pause it so I can enjoy my crayon time. This guy's going to cut in front. This guy's swinging around back. They've got a great envelopment of this 13 gun. You'll love to see it. It's a heroic last stand for the Marines. And, hats off to those two captains. I'm guaranteeing those are some of the experienced captains in the Marines fleet. Put one of those guys on the 13 gun. You don't have to command from the 13 gun. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the 13 gun isn't under the command of the Admiral. I don't know. So beautiful moment here. DMAS and everything. Just beautiful. Great job, guys. To give your team some heroism to be proud of, even though the battle didn't go your way. We'd love to see it. All right, let's move on to the next battle. We're blowing through these. Game 15. I'm not going to need to take 2 hours. I'm not even going to need to take 1 hour. That said, we will talk afterwards. I'll take some questions from the chat, and we'll talk about the future of the league and stuff like that if we have some time. SCP-38 versus the Krakens. SCP-38 versus the Krakens. This was a controversial battle for. Oh, I have my sound on. No, I don't want to hear me twice. Nobody wants to hear me twice. All right, so obviously we know that this battle doesn't have a lot of action in it till the very end. There are gems to be found in this. I want to talk about a little bit about some. Again, I made a big announcement in the NSL Discord about how much I really don't like to hear sort of animosity towards these captains for the decisions that they made. I know I was a part of that. And, I really want to take the time here while we analyze this battle to talk about why, especially I don't think that the SCP-38, who I heard some, very unkind things about, are like responsible wholly. I think, first of all, everybody's responsible for slow battles. Both teams have the opportunity to attack each other, even if the wind is not good for them or whatever. But the SCP did here say, we're going to play a defensive game. We talked all about these. When you have bad wind, you have to choose somewhere on your side of the battlefield to have the battle. And the SCP chose. They chose. They said, all right, this is where we want the fight to be. And the Krakens had the opportunity to take them. I think the Krakens really should have gone in there and taken them. I think that though the SCP put themselves in a position of defense, I don't really think it was the greatest defensive position of all time. And we'll talk about why I'm not a huge fan of where the SCP decided to position themselves. So let's get there. All right, so here we have it. This is the moment where the Krakens decide not to take the SCP up on the battle. Now, let's look at the factors here. All right, so we've got a southwest wind direction. Give me my crayon. Where's my crayon? Where's my crayon? My crayon's gone. Ah! All right, hold on. Let me get my crayon back up. All right, there we go. I can't. No, I'm free. Atticus going, breathe. No, I can't breathe. My crayon. All right, so we got it back. The wind is going southwest. That means the wind is going this way. Okay, that is a very bad position for a fleet to be pointed this way in. Only thing that this SCP could do to escape this position that they've decided to set themselves up in is go like this. Because if the Krakens put 8 guns in the front of their fleet and charged up this way, they would take damage on the incoming, but they would have the SCP by the back for a very good long time. If they want to be more conservative, they go out here and circle in, and then they don't take the SCP beating. The SCP, to fire at this line of attack, has to turn their ships this way, has to turn dead into the wind. They do not want to do this. So they're going to have to run. At the very least, the Kraken spook the SCP-38s from their position. I'm going to say this. This is my firm belief. Okay. I've done defensive positions before. Um, I've stopped and held a position before. I've seen others do it. Holding a position is a quintessentially weak, and I don't mean like weak-minded or weak-hearted or like, bitch ass. I mean it is a structurally weak position because you are showing the enemy where you are and where you're going to be in the next few minutes. The fleet that is moving is the fleet that has the opportunities. The fleet that is not moving is a fleet without opportunities. So in this situation, the Krakens have perfect, perfect wind to go and bully the SCP-38s. Now, I'm sure we will see in the chat that the Krakens have their reasons, and everybody has their reasons for everything. I'm not here to criticize the reasons for why you did. I'm here to talk about the counterfactuals, the other opportunities, the roads not traveled here. So let's just talk about what happens, right? The Krakens, let's say they come up this way, probably the more conservative, probably the smarter. I hate this island here stopping you from being able to hit them for the full way. Let's say the Krakens just set up here. Even just setting up here and firing on these rear 3 ships, these lead ships are going to be a little bit out of rotation. They're going to have to turn this way to get into rotation. This disrupts the SCP-38 fleet in a way that I just really like. And remember, maybe the SCP-38 will come out of this in a good way. Maybe they will go against the wind, and then maybe they'll go against the wind, and then the Krakens will go this way, or they'll go this way, and then the wind will turn, and then the SCP are suddenly down here, and then they have the good window. Yeah, that's all possible. But maybe the SCP do something really dumb here. Not saying that they are dumb, saying it's possible. When you spook an opponent, when you get around behind the opponent, you're opening up the opportunities for them to make a mistake. And that is what aggressive pressure does. And that's why it's so important. And that's, I know, my personal admiraling philosophy is get the opponent, put pressure on them, see what they do, find an opening and an opportunity based off of their reaction to your aggression, and then exploit it. Now, that might not be everybody else's strategy, and there's openings and opportunities for every strategy to make sense and be workable. But I'm the one talking right now. I'm an aggressive guy when I'm in the admiral seat, and I want to get to the enemy. And when they put themselves in a position where their fleet is stopped against the wind, I will attack. And the reasons for that I have just kind of elucidated. The reasons being, I think that you can put a lot of pressure on the rear half of their fleet, and with the fullness of your cannons, right? You could put a lot of pressure here, and they've got nowhere to go. They're not going to have anywhere to go for a good long time. And if they start coming down this way, right, and they seek to go against the wind or whatever, just again cut around behind them. Or if you want to be cautious, go on the back of this island, because then when they come around, they may have good wind, but by the time they get to you, you'll be somewhere out here. There's lots of ways to get out of that death spiral, yeah, these islands, these pill-shaped islands, man, I love them. I love them. They put pressure down. Anyway, we can talk about this until Kingdom Come. Let's move on, because as much as I'm criticizing the Krakens right now for maybe not getting offensive here, the end game from the Krakens is an absolute masterclass. So let's skip to let's skip to 43 minutes, because it's a long time before these guys really get into anything like a heated exchange. I want to note the weakness of the SCP's approach here. The Krakens have a really strong line. Excuse me. The Krakens have a really strong line. You can see that they're all in a line here, and they will be when they get to the wall. Whereas the SCP, this diagonal thing is not going to work really well for them. It leaves 2 of their ships kind of at an extreme range. So, you want to, when you're approaching an enemy, even if it means you're going to take some damage, I would go towards and then whip around, right? If you're at the extremity of their range, you're not going to take too much punishment for doing it. But going this angle in towards the enemy, it just gives them an opportunity to hit your front, which they're going to hit either way. Either of these approaches that you take, you're going to get hit. So just something to think about. All right. So here we go. Again, this continues to sort of develop as it does. So my playback speed's not doubled. Why not? So here we have it. This battle starts. Both of the teams start to think, we should turn. We shouldn't do this. Yeah, see, I'm even saying it there. The ability of the Kraken's fleet formations. The Krakens do show here a superior ability to marshal their fleet towards a common objective. It is what it has them at second place. Let it be known. The reason that the Krakens are the second place team, the reason that they're so highly placed and they're so good is because they have just really fine fleet work. Really fine fleet work. And they're showing it here. They show it every battle, to be quite honest. This is very rare for the Kraken's fleet to get discombobulated. Um, so yeah, they hang out here. You can see in the foreground here, the SCP is already thinking about what they're going to do with their rear ships. They're turning those rear ships in a way that shows that they're going to try and cut behind the Krakens. Unfortunately, the Krakens think we're not going to just turn our rear two ships. We're going to turn our whole damn fleet. And they leave the SCP-38's 13 gun and 2 8 guns behind. This is the decision. When we talk about decision points, this is the decision for the Krakens to keep their fleet united that wins them this game. And it really is down to the wire at the end. Either of those 13 guns could have gone down, and the Krakens used their superior fleet formation to win it for themselves. So let's get to that. I want to talk about just the beauty of the Kraken's instantaneous responses here. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Let's try and get, okay, right here. Beautiful moment. Okay. So the Krakens have taken their whole fleet to fight these 2 8 guns. The 13 gun and the 2 8 guns at the top are just like nowhere in range of the Krakens. They've taken a very slow, ponderous turn to get to the Krakens. What we're going to see here is the Krakens chase these 2 8 guns away, and on a dime, again, showing how great their fleet formations can be and how great an admiral says something and every captain does it at the same time. You will see everybody in the Kraken's fleet turn on a dime as soon as these two are reliably chased off into that narrow gap. Oh, I hope we can get to see a little bit more of it. But yeah, I mean, here, you're seeing it right here. This is the whole Kraken's fleet. Just beautifully turning. Beautiful. All is one. And what are they going for? Their target, the 13 gun. Now, we only have 5 minutes left in this battle. I wish maneuvers like this had happened earlier, but we cannot take away from the Krakens. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful focus on the 13 gun. They're going for the prize. They want that 13 gun gone. And they're not going to just do it with their 13 gun. They're going to do it with their whole fleet. They're going to set up the tried and true method of having the 8 guns shielding the 13 gun, and they're going to get in range. Let's skip a little ahead to see how beautifully this formation develops. Look at that. Everybody's back together. The SCP, again, because of their diagonal nature of their line, their 13 gun is the only one that can fire on the Kraken's 13 gun. Maybe 1 8 gun can. But the Krakens are going to slowly continue to move forward in a way that makes it so the SCP has a 13 gun on their 13 gun, but the Krakens have every single ship on the SCP 13 gun. Crazy that this is still down to the wire. I mean, absolutely down to the wire. And getting a simultaneous sync. The SCP-38, probably having watched this after the fact, have to feel like they had the opportunity to make this an even match, that to at least to go to points. But if you take a look here, I mean, just, you can't see because you can't see behind the 13 gun right now, but all these guys, a lot of them were not in range of the 13 gun, or if they were in absolute maximum range, so that when the 13 gun sinks, when the SCP 13 gun goes down, the Krakens can just slip their 13 gun away, and the 8 guns are blocking it, and the SCP can't hit it. It is, I mean, this is, wow, just perfect from the Krakens at the end here. And so, you got to give it to the Krakens. They have superior fleet formation skills, and they just know how to get their ships where they want them to be. It goes to an experience with captains. Teams, train your captains. Can't tell you enough. Train your captains. Train your captains for every maneuver. Have things that you can say to your captains that they immediately know what it means, and they can immediately, snap in to a fleet formation. You got to drill them on that as best you can. And I know a lot of these teams are built up of various different regiments. Take the time, guys, once a month or 2 hours before it starts, Admiral, talk to your crews or talk to your captains, teach them some fleet formations that you think are going to come up in the battle. Great battle. A great ending from the Krakens. All right, now let's get into the Marines versus the Jackals. Our most recent game. I don't have any timestamps for this one. I didn't get to it before we started. Obviously, we've all just watched this battle. the Jackals and the Marines have ups and downs like I cannot tell you. So we're gonna, since we have the time, I was budgeting 2 hours for this thing, and maybe we'll get close, but we're gonna watch a lot of this battle. We're gonna get to some serious points here. First off, the thing that allows the Jackals to do what they did is the Marines' gunboats kind of being MIA up in this area up here. They're in this area up here. The Jackals have their gunboats pointed somewhere down here. The wind is going northwest, which means that if you bring your gunboats up here, they're going to struggle to get downwind. So it gives the Jackals the time that they need to pull off a spectacular, the best boarding maneuver we have ever seen in the NSL. Let's take a look. You can see them. They are hiding behind this island. It is an absolute thing of beauty. They pull themselves back, and they pull themselves back, and they pull themselves back. They pull themselves back so much that they then have the ability to go towards either of these. And they do. They realize where the Marines are going. The Marines do not see them coming. And there's Merc drawing all over the place. Merc, nobody wants to see you drawing. Stop it. Nobody wants to see you drawing all over the map. They want to see the battle. No, I don't. Shut up, Atticus. I don't realize it. Atticus is saying horrible things in my ear. He's saying lies. I was being sarcastic. Everybody loves my crayon. I don't want to hear any other opinions. All right, begins the Marines and Jackals, their appointment with destiny in the channel. And so why is this such a great position to pounce? Well, the Marines do not have the ability to turn their cannons into rotation against Jackals. Rocket boats. Now, rocket boats, cutting sails right here. That's what you want to do. I'd have cut sails even a little earlier, but that's okay. They hit those rockets. Again, the rockets aren't really it. The rockets are the flash, but the substance is the boarding action. Great job. I'm begging as a announcer for the Jackals to turn that ship into the islands and blockade the pass. Of course, they don't get to the helm to do that, or they don't last long enough on the helm. And then they do a great job of just saying, all right, well, we did our damage on that ship, but let's go for the real prize here. That is the 13 gun. And they rough up that 13 gun something serious. We talked a little earlier today about how important it is to be doing these boarding actions at a moment in which the enemy, the two fleets are fighting. You do not want your enemy's full crew to, that's right, crayon hype, chat. Hype the crayon. You do not want the enemy's full crew on any ship to be able to repel your boarding action. You want them on the cannons where they're distracted by the enemy. So that's what's so great about this maneuver here. The Jackals really just such a spectacular job. This is so great. I mean, truly like MVP moment of the league. My favorite battle. I can't say that every decision that gets made in this battle is maybe the optimal decision. We won't go that far. But as far as fun factor, as far as just, I mean, look at that. Look at these two carpenters just causing maximum chaos out here, and they're just not getting killed. Oh, there goes one. And there goes the other. All right, good job, Cap. Nonetheless, they have crippled the 13 gun. A poor ship to maneuver, even in the best of circumstances, now slower. Egg says so well as announcer. Now the entire Marines fleet is stuck at the pace of the 13 gun. This is where I don't think, it's a situation where I would keep my fleet together. The Marines do split up their fleet and they go around the slowest possible maneuver route to get to where they want to go. Now, I critiqued it in the moment. I think I probably have to maybe eat my words here because it turned out so great for them, though. I think they should have turned left. I mean, I would have liked, so let's talk about let's actually get to what I'm talking about here. So out of here, I don't know. I would have liked a left turn here. That's where the wind is. Wind is northwest, right? Wind is this way. So I would have had the flagship use everything it has, every sail it has to go this way and set up, again, a defensive position somewhere in these islands. Let the enemy come through and then whatever. Obviously, I'll eat my words here. I mean, I still think that was a right call, but certainly the Marines struck gold because of what happens next. So let's skip a little bit ahead because the turn is very slow. We got this demasted ship that just gets, look at this. Could you imagine being on that ship and turning around and seeing that behind you? That's got to be quite a sight to behold. But they can't even pay attention because they've got a rocket boat on them. Anyway, wow. Um, so now we have a Jackal's decision that is just very tough to justify. And that is to go, having watched the enemy go through a narrow pass and get really badly punished for it, they now choose to go through a really narrow pass. And guess what happens? They get punished for it. I've gone too far. So let's see. This is it. This is the moment. So just going back a little bit. So they swing around this way as they go and fire into this crippled ship. Okay. Then they go through here and then they swing around here. Jackals, I love you guys. What possessed you to make this maneuver? I have no idea. The enemy is now swung around this island and they are racing to cut off this 13 gun that has, I believe, been hit a beach to get even more. Like maybe what they're thinking is we have the time to go through here and cut out in front of the enemy fleet. If only they didn't hit that island, but they did hit that island. I wouldn't have been too confident about getting through there either way. I do have to say, I have to apologize to Chewie, who I thought was a captain today, and I was yelling at him for not turning his 13 gun more into rotation earlier to hit this, right? Because this 13 gun back here, like it takes an extra second. Here, let's see if we get a look at it. Like this 13 gun should be positioned this way. It cannot be positioned this way. It's got to get those cannons in. This is every second where you're going to be hitting this ship is going to count here. It's a little critique, but you've really got to see what's coming up next. And there you go. They turn in. We're a little fast forwarded here, so it looks like it's fast, but to me it was slow in that moment. That said, it doesn't matter whether they get there fast or slow because they beat the hell out of this. This is the turning point. This is the moment that the Jackals go from obvious victory to possible defeat, and they are so spread out, so spread out. So yeah, it's not a good moment for the Jackals to lose their 13 gun when they are in a moment of beautiful victory, having really disabled and damaged the Marines' 13 gun. All right, so now what happens next? How is it that the Jackals possibly win this battle, right? Because the Marines have a half up 13 gun. The Jackals are spread out all over this damn map. How is it that they get together? Well, first, we do have to take some account that this 13 gun is in a very bad position, and it stays in a very bad position, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of urgency to move into a better angle. An angle even like this, right? Even like this kind of angle, where it can fire on this side and fire on this side, and using the wind to swing up this way. I mean, we've got to get there, guys, and we're just not there right now. So it's a tough one. He's firing at this guy down here. I get it. You don't want to turn your back to that guy. I do get it. And obviously, as soon as he's sunk, now the 13 gun is thinking of moving. Where is the 13 gun thinking of moving, though? And how fast can it get there? It's, this is really where the D-mass of this ship shows and rears its ugly head. Very difficult. The Jackals have this weird, miraculous ability to be all over the map and then just all of a sudden they appear out of nowhere all around your fleet. What could the Marines have done? I think stayed closer to the 13 gun. I think this is a situation where you just really don't want to leave your 13 gun alone. I think that would be my major critique. It's a hard thing to think about because the Jackals are doing such an unorthodox attack here. I think you've got to keep your fleet together at this point. So that would be what I'd say. Stick by your 13 gun. It still had quite a lot of HP there. And then the rest of this is just like amazing porting actions. Jackals just do such a great job at disabling the Marines' capacity to fight back, cutting along behind them. The Jackals accept a certain amount of harm to get into a better position over their enemies. So, learn from the Jackals, folks. Be willing to accept a certain amount of damage to your Acons to put them in a position where they disrupt the operations of an enemy ship. Because look at the results. They're so good. So good. And it's still like, listen, it's a close thing right up to the end, honestly. Like, even right now, I can't tell who's going to win this battle. I really can't. But that's what makes this one of the best battles ever in the history of the NSL, because you just don't know who's going to win until the bitter end. But the Jackals just continuously, with their boarding actions and with their ferocious dedication to offense, they pull through. So, to talk about what makes this battle great, listen, it's like, again, is it like the perfectly wrought battle from each side? No. Everybody made mistakes in this battle, but that's okay. What this goes to show you is that mistakes can be made in the NSL, and if you engage early and aggressively, and don't then spend the middle of the battle running away from each other, but just continuously pressure each other, you will find openings to exploit. Your crews, trust your captains, trust your fleet. The best thing you can do is be near the enemy, because that opens up opportunities. And if you can mess up your enemy's strategy, and you can do what the Jackals have done and the Marines did, which is take a moment where the enemy fleet thinks it's okay, and then shake that up. If you can do that, however you can get there, you too can have a battle like this where it's all on the line. And I know that your fleets will appreciate it. So, I mean, we can watch the rest of this because it's just a beautiful thing. But the Jackals do manage to pull the rabbit out of the hat, and just boarding action after boarding action after boarding action. It's so nice to watch. Somehow, I have covered like 9 battles in the span of an hour and a half. So, as we allow this to just keep playing in the background, I will turn my attention to the chat. If there's any questions that you guys want to ask me while you've got my full attention, about the future of the league, about the naval update, about anything, about console stuff, anything. But yeah, I totally agree. Messing up the enemy and disrupting their plans. If you do not have plans of your own, you are already winning. That is not said by me. That's said in the chat, and it is true words, never been spoken. The goal of the NSL, I hope, is to develop every one of us into admirals and fleets that just what admiral? Oh, great question, Eggs. What admiral in the fleet do I fear most? Yeah. Atticus just said Atticus in my ear. No Leviathans. Well said, Eggs. No, 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 no. I don't think, of all the admirals, that's so tough. That's so tough because there's so many admirals with so many great qualities. Um, I'd have to say it would. I'm not going to say a specific admiral. I'll say rather a team. Um, First of all, obviously the Royal Black Fleet have given me my closest victories, like the toughest ones for me. So, got to give the Royal Black Fleet a shout out for being our most the opponents that really just like they get into my head in a way. They don't let me win the way I want to win. And so kudos to them. I'd also say the SCP. On the SCP and Jackals, SCP and Jackals, on their best days, they do what we're talking about, which is when so we'll talk about, like Muffin Top, we'll talk about Charney, we'll talk about guys like that. These are the guys that on their best days, they foil plans and they put pressure. And so that is, the style that I am the worst at dealing with. But I mean, again, like I just want to kind of spread the love around. Also, the Krakens, because the Krakens with their amazing, so Kraken's admirals will also be a challenge for me because of their ability to form a fleet so well that I cannot exploit weaknesses because they will not give me any. All right, let's take a look at other questions. What can you tell us about the naval update? Okay, so what I can tell you about the naval update is basically what you could read in their announcement. I will tell you things that I have asked for because that is not telling you what they'll do. What I have asked for is a fix for naval melee. The ships dragging the melee hitboxes is so goddamn annoying, and I would love for them to fix that. We've also recently talked about, and again, I have a conversation that I have, an NDA conversation that I have with the developers of Holdfast, and they are taking our criticisms and criticisms, our critiques and our suggestions very seriously. Um, anyway, what I want is the following. I want those melee changes. I want the gunboat bug fixed. If you're a new player and you don't know the gunboat bug, if you're piloting a gunboat and there's somebody manning, like actually on your front cannon, like actively aiming the front cannon, it often knocks your ship off course for no reason. Very annoying. I'd love for them to fix that. Um, I want in pubs. I want spawn protection for ships on pubs. I want much increased HP on ships, especially the 50 gun. So whatever, let's say we do a blanket ship HP increase on all the ships. I want that like almost doubled for the 50 gun because the 50 gun with its many cannons actually is a weaker ship than the 13 gun because anywhere you're shooting on the 50 gun, you're exploding a cannon if they're all loaded. So it needs even more ship HP to take care of that. What I want is I want things to be able to be repaired on ships. I want what else? Yeah, obviously maps. Big thing and huge for the future of this league is the maps. Thank you, Atticus. Huge is maps. Right now, I believe, based off of conversations that I've had, that we're going to keep. Well, I don't have to say that. You all know they've told us we're going to be getting maps. Now there's a question of how many. Now, many of you know that Killam, our admiral in X, who for those of you who don't know the regiments, the Leviathans are X. They're Merc's pirate fleet. That's my pirate fleet. Um, One of our admirals, Killam, is a prolific. I mean, prolific's like not a strong enough word for it. Map maker. Right now, yes. Holdfast has 3 naval maps. That is like ship battle maps. And one of those is actually a coastal siege map that really shouldn't. You don't want to use it because it has an island filled with cannons. If you want to just have a straight ship battle, you don't want to have an island luring people to abandon their ships so that they can, yeah. Anyway, we are going to get some more maps. What I need from AGS is somewhere around like 7 ship battle maps. Killam has given AGS every single map that he's made and said, please use my maps to take away some of the pre-work that you guys need to do to develop your own maps. These are maps that are tested. We've used them hundreds of times in the 5 naval events that we host every week. Please take these and use them, and they have accepted them. And we're really hoping that means that next year, which I'm assuming it's going to come out, hopefully in a few months, maybe a little longer, that the update allows us before next season of the NSL to have 7, 8, 9, maybe, I mean, who knows, vanilla maps, because that means next season of NSL can be open to everybody who plays Holdfast. Imagine being able to use console players in the NSL. It would be game changing. The teams would be gigantic. We could change up how many ships we have. We could have more ships. We could have all different. I mean, it opens up so many possibilities. So, if I highly suggest that you all, in whatever way you can, in any time that you get over these next few months, let AGS know. We don't just want coastal siege maps, though we do want coastal siege maps. I see in the chat they just want to add, you cannot use Killam's maps as a vanilla AGS map, unfortunately, and that is because he builds them in a different way than they build them, so it wouldn't work. It would have to be a mod downloader. But what he's done is he's created concepts. A lot of the time that they take is not building the maps. That maybe takes a few weeks. It's the conceptual work. What does the map look like? Does this a good way, way to set up a map? Is this a good way? What do we need for naval battles? You just need islands thrown around wherever you can get them. They don't all have to be perfect. They don't all have to be balanced. They don't have to be great. They just have to be islands in ocean. So anyway, I'm really hoping for some maps. Atticus, is there anything else I'm missing for like what people can expect? Because I got Atticus in my ear. Yeah, I can't think of anything either. All right. When are we doing a draft league? All right, they're asking for a draft league. Atticus, when do you want to do a draft league? They want a draft league. A draft battle would be very fun. Yeah. All right. Atticus is saying he has a plan for an exhibition battle that will be a draft exhibition battle. And so if you want, Atticus is your man. He's going to make it happen, and we will be here to watch and enjoy. I think it'll be great. So I'm going to open up to any more questions, and then I'm going to make one or two announcements about the league, big ones. All Merc match. Well, I mean, the Mercs are. Yeah, sorry. I don't think you're getting the league. I don't think you're getting the. I don't think you're getting the league. Stratios TV. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, it's Percy. Actually, I did know that was Percy. Sorry, Percy. We love you. Sorry, man. Won't be open to console because of no mods. So, Kingon, the matches like this will not be open to console this season. So the rest of this season, of which we have like 14 more battles and then the finals. No, don't refer yourself, Percy. We love you. These will not be open to the console. I am hopeful that AGS will do what they need to do, and that's what I was just talking about. Put in enough vanilla maps into the base game that next season we can invite all. I want the console players in the NSL. I want them bad. I think competitive, just like regiments, is a thing that keeps people playing this game. So I'm hoping that everybody can participate next season, and we can have like 100 people in the server every battle, duking it out. Like, you're going to be fighting for positions to get on these fleets. I hope for all of it. So we'll see. That's not in my hands. That is in the hands of AGS because there are so few maps. But anyway. All right. Well, again, I'd like to wrap it up soon, so I will leave it open to any more questions that anybody has. But if not, then I am going to make the following announcements, or major single announcement. And it is that there will be cash prizes for the NSL at the end of the season. I am not going to put the number down, but it is going to be a substantial cash prize. Who I would like to be giving the cash prizes to are going to be the top 10 players of the league, as well as all the admirals that make it into the upper bracket, as well as the winner of the lower bracket. All of these people will be getting cash prizes. And it's not going to be pennies. It's going to be dollars. It's going to be dollars and dollars and dollars. So keep that in mind. I'm also working on a structure not a structure, but like a document in which people can gain titles and achievements in the NSL. So there will be NSL achievements. Like in X, we have our service records, which is like you do a cool thing in a battle, like you kill 5 people on a gunboat, you get a record, a Discord tag basically, that says like I did this thing. And so we're gonna create one for the NSL for all the things that a player can do in the NSL. And there are some other things that I'm planning. I don't want to talk about just yet. But like the theme of next season, some of those things that we talked about earlier in the broadcast about, the possibility for certain perks that you can get if you're lower on the leaderboard as a team, so that you can kind of punch up a little easier or change the circumstance a little bit more in your favor. I want to keep this as competitive as possible, but I also want to give teams that are struggling on the leaderboard the opportunity to give themselves better circumstances so that the competition can be more fierce. I think we all want good competition. And so we'll talk about that. And obviously all the admirals are going to get custom coffee table. I know what you're talking about. That coffee table was so cool. We're probably opening a merch shop at some point. So get ready for that. Ways that you can support the league through merch. And so, yeah. But yeah, so we have a lot to come. Next season is going to be bigger, better, more complex. And over the years, I want to keep making this league more complex in good ways that serve the admirals and the teams so that everybody feels like they can have a good shot. Yeah, that's a fun reward. Liar's Dice game with me. I'm terrible at Liar's Dice. I lose all the time. So you'll win. All right. Well, with that, I would love to invite you all to join us next week. We have a climactic battle, the Leviathans versus the Krakens. the Clash of the Titans, as we call it, because these are the number 1 and the number 2 team. And you can bet that that is going to be a great battle to watch. So please join us again next week, sometime around this time, about an hour ago next week. And we will see you there. But it has been a pleasure to go with you through all these wonderful battles. I want to thank all the admirals, all the captains, and all the crews who have done such a great job at all these battles to create such an entertaining and competitive league. The different ways that people compete in this league are amazing to watch. You have the individual players who every week are competing for top slots on the leaderboard. You have the admirals who are competing against each other to maneuver their fleets in the best way possible and win the season. You've got captains. You've got all sorts of mercenaries, everybody. I can't thank you all enough for the incredible effort that you put into this league. I've been playing this game for 5 years. We have actually next week, we have our 5-year anniversary, which is going to be a big event. We invite all of the teams and everybody in the naval community too, so that you can join us. This has been for 5 years a dream of mine to have a competition at this level of complexity with this level of coverage. Guys like Atticus and Prof who direct behind the scenes, all of the guys who donate their time to being cameramen and correspondents for us, all the people guys like Eggs came up with all the. I mean, I can't go on enough about what a miracle it is that this all came together, and how it is being upheld by people of such immense talent and dedication, and how grateful I am to all of them, whether they're the players or the guys behind the scenes. So thank you all so much for making this dream come true for me and for all of us. And I look forward to many more battles with all of you. It has been my pleasure to be with you today for this Wardroom, and I will see you next time.